Welcome to the Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa, where we discuss dating and other significant relationships.
Great evening, señorita.
All right. Great evening. It is a beautiful, beautiful day, and we are discussing some really good stuff tonight, Poppy. Welcome, everybody, to the Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa. And tonight we're talking about realistic versus fantasy in your dating life. So let's just jump right on in.
Let's do it.
We had some really, look, our listeners, I'm telling you, you guys and ladies are the absolute best. When we post things on our Facebook forum, I'm telling you what we got out of this topic. I was thinking, is it just me? But I was kind of interested in how many of us are puffing up, romantic fantasy when we're out here looking for a mate, like, you want somebody over 6 feet, over 6 figures, best looking thing in the world. Guys might be looking for, 40 double D. I don't know. But it's just like, are we really putting together a relationship, or are we putting together paper dolls to play with?
Yeah, we're about to we about to have a real conversation, and it's funny when you brought this topic up, it made me realize I've had a lot of friends ask me about this. They're like, yo, like, how realistic is your expectations with what you're looking for in a mate? And I've kind of have to, stop and assess, like, man, am I being realistic?
Right. And that's what we wanted to talk about tonight. So I did do some research beyond, just getting in our audience opinion, because I was just like, is this really out here? Is this in our heads, And I found an article, Why It's Time to Embrace Romantic Realism. That's what I put romance, realism, fantasy, whatever. And this one came up by Jenn Selby, written March 16th of 2022. So we'll definitely post the website for your own reading pleasure, our listeners. But it talked about releasing certain things. And a few of those things were releasing the idea that there's one soulmate out of billions of people in the world, that you could only really love one person, release the Disney fairy tale life, and then releasing this thought that things are going to always be fireworks and passion, but realizing that passion is going to wear off after the first couple of years. And what are you left with? And so that was really intriguing for me, Poppy, because, having been married and divorced, having been online dating, having been a romance novel reader, like I love Bridgerton. Everybody that's out there who doesn't know what I'm talking about, get on Netflix. It's some good fiction. But how much of that really impeded my ability to pick a good mate, especially when I hadn't really done a lot of healing work when I first got back out there. And I was like, the idea of us not having a happily ever after the way it's sold to us with Hollywood movies, even Nollywood and Bollywood for that matter.
Yeah.
Everybody wants a happy ending. But what if we have a companionable ending? What if we're friends more than we're, lovers going out for, all this grand passion? And, it'd be great to have it all. And I'm not saying that it's not possible. I don't know that this article really championed the thought that having, continued passion was, it was really knocking down the idea that you're going to keep feeling fire for the person that you're with. But, I think we talked about it so often on the show, communication being so key. But how many of us are looking for a good communicator? Tell the audience tonight, Poppy, you asked me a really good exercise for the show. And let's talk about that a little bit, because I think looking at whether you got a fantasy or you got a reality, something that's real, it starts with this list that we created.
So what I did is, as I was thinking about this topic, um, and kudos to I think Margot. She's the one that mentioned that she has a list of requirements, right? That she
Mm-hmm.
seeks in
Mm-hmm.
a mate. So then it kind of made me think, right? Like, hey, what are some characteristics or qualities that I have to have? And I said, let's just do our top five, right? Like in no
Mm-hmm.
particular order, just five characteristics that I have to have in a woman for a serious relationship. And I came up with number one, outgoing. She's got to be outgoing because, as you know, as the listeners see, I'm a pretty social guy. I'm
Right.
very outgoing. I like to, explore, like to travel, all that good stuff. So somebody who's very introverted, it just wouldn't work for me. So outgoing is one. Family values, obviously being Latino,
Mm-hmm.
that's key. And somebody who's not really tight knit with family or just doesn't believe in the whole family concept, that would be a struggle for me, and that would be a no go for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Wants children, obviously. I feel that that probably has been my crutch and my biggest struggle in my pursuit to a long term relationship is to find a woman with that's in the same phase of life, but that can also want and can have children.
Yeah.
Uh, for a long-term relationship or a serious relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is adventurous. I'm sure those who know me, those who follow the podcast, I'm a pretty outgoing guy, pretty adventurous, and obviously in the bedroom I'm very open-minded, and I'm into the bondage scene and all that stuff. So somebody who's ultra conservative or vanilla, it just wouldn't work for me. The horse is out of the barn when it comes to that. So I would need somebody who, likes to explore, be adventurous, and, wants to try new things when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And mannerisms. Mannerisms are important to me. My parents raised me and my little brother to, say you're welcome, say good night, say
Yeah.
good morning, please, thank you. And even, I've mentioned this on the podcast that even when I go out on dates, I notice when a woman says thank you and please and you're welcome and how they treat,
Yeah.
the waiter or, people around them. So to
Yeah.
me, those would be my five must haves.
Okay. All right. I like those. Especially like the personality, the family values. I think that's something that you don't really hear a lot of people say. Just reading the dating app profiles, when I was a part of the dating app scene, which I have come off all those apps and everything. So, but that wasn't something that you always saw. And I think those are very important. My list included integrity,
Okay.
because I think honesty is very important. But integrity to me is sort of like you said, how they treat other people as well, not just how honest you are, because you can be honest and be rude as hell. Uh,
Right.
but integrity, you know how to treat people, you know how to be honest, you know how to express yourself appropriately. A spiritual life, strong spiritual life is very important to me, especially with the work I do. I really, I've dated people who were non-believers, and no judgment. People are on their own journey, discovering themselves how they need to. But for me, it's kind of like you said with the whole family thing. That just was such a huge gap between me and the other person that I just felt like I was never going to be able. I would have had to have compromised, and I wasn't willing to do that with my own spiritual life. Um, Financial fitness. Now, I'm not saying that this has got to be somebody who's a six figure and up person, but somebody who believes in paying their bills on time. Somebody who knows how to handle money, knows how to manage um, whatever you do have,
Right.
whether a little or a lot, you're good with your finances. That's very important to me, because just like emotional abuse takes place inside relationships, financial abuse is also real. So that's very important to me. Somebody who's emotionally available and engages with people well, not just emotionally available to me, and then you treat everybody else like shit. I
Yeah,
don't.
that's a good point. Very good point.
And then sexual compatibility, because I think too often we don't want to say what we really want. And in that area, it can completely destroy your relationship if you're a very passionate person, um and not just, when I say sexual compatibility, not just the act of making love or whatever, but somebody who likes to hold hands, somebody who touch is a love language for them. I love to hug. It was so difficult for me when COVID first came out and we couldn't hug people and we couldn't touch people. Like, it it really grieved me, um just being the person that I am, and not just with a mate, but with anybody. So
Right.
that one for me, um, was definitely a must have. So, with that being said, our folks online really dove into this. And one of the first comments, Mary Matthews, we just want to shout her out. Her first word was realistic, period. No person will fit 100% of your mold or desires, but if they meet a large number of the criteria you desire, you keep them and watch to see if they are truly going to continue to be that person, or if they're putting on a good front. Most people take a while to relax and show their true colors. I thought she was spot on.
She nailed it.
uh,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, right off the gate. You talked about the dating representative dangers, and too often, and this is where I feel like you need to know your own list, but you may not need to share your list, especially if you're on a dating app.
Yeah, you
Some
definitely don't
people,
want to.
yeah,
You don't want to put everything out there, because then that can be used against you, or they can prey on that.
that,
So,
yes,
as a person, right, you do need to be careful, because, yeah, that dating representative can get your ass in trouble and can get you in a bind. So I do agree that you do need to be selective with how much you put out there. I mean, I think it's important to have certain standards
yeah,
and to have certain, characteristics that you seek,
yeah,
but definitely be careful how much you share, because that person's going to be like, all right, I need to force myself to do this, or I need to force myself to go hiking because this woman likes to hike. And if that's
mhm,
not your thing, eventually that's going to get old, or you're only going to be able to keep that up for so long.
right. Kimberlyn Terrain said, realistic. I require a job, kindness, and a sense of humor. The rest we can figure out. Seems the most unrealistic desire I have is finding a man who also wants a long-term partner.
Oh
Uh,
my god.
I was like,
Oh my god.
wow. Like, the ladies really came out with it in this post. Some of them, I thought, wow.
Yeah,
Um,
they came out guns blazing. Listen, I have something to say on that, because being on dating apps, I mean, I've been, on and off on dating apps since I've been, separated and divorced. And it's funny, because one thing that I always see is, more or less, right, along these lines, is I see a lot of women that mention, I want a guy that has his life together, or quote unquote his shit together,
mhm,
right? And it sounds good, right? Makes sense. I get it. However, when I run, or when I match in with a woman like that, I also flip it on them and I ask them, "Do you have your shit together?"
right. Because
Because if you're
on it.
saying that, "Hey, I want a man that's well established financially. I want a man that's emotionally available. I want a man that's going to make time for me. I want a man that's going to, be romantic."
Mhm.
And so my thing is, do you have your shit together, and are you able to provide those same qualities that you are asking for?
I think that's so important. And you know what? Recently, well, I guess, about 6 months ago or so, I shouldn't say recently because really it was about last year,
Okay.
I kept feeling like I was running into people who were emotionally unavailable. And I finally sat down and asked myself, are you? And I was shocked at
Ooh.
out. I was not. I was picking people purposely, I think, subconsciously, who weren't. So that way I knew I could stay free. I knew I wouldn't have to get overly involved. And I knew that the relationship wouldn't last because I was still in a place with some hurt that I had not resolved. And so this list that we made, I think, is a great idea. Thank you again, for
Margot.
Margot. It's Margot Payne who said the list, but also really Mary, talked a lot about, the qualities and things that you want for your criteria. But I think you need to really write that stuff down and then look at your list yourself before you go on a date and see how many of those things do you do with integrity. I had to look at myself and say, do you keep your word to yourself? Because I can't keep it to someone with someone else if I don't keep it for myself. But
Oh
that
man.
emotional availability got me, Poppy, and I had to really be honest with myself and go, you're still struggling in this space, and you're not going to find the person who is going to be open with you until you can unlock that door for yourself.
Listen, and I think this is actually a really good exercise, and I would encourage anyone who, maybe is reflecting or maybe just wants to kind of assess where they're at as far as with what they're seeking, sit down and write, some of your top 5 or top 7 characteristics,
Hmm.
and make sure that what you are asking, you are also able to bring to the table.
Yes. Now, Margot's list was 13 items, and she said some of them were theoretically. But I love this because she gave herself a qualifying number. She said, if you don't check off at least 7 of them, we won't work out in the long run. I say she's really done some homework on herself. She said, either I will grow to resent you or you will grow to resent me. For example, one of the items is has or want kids because I have them. And if he's anti children, this will not work because he just doesn't understand life as a parent. Another one
Right.
likes to travel and does travel. I spend a lot of time and money traveling, and if I'm always leaving him at home, that's not fun for either of us. I thought that was a great, great example of
Oh,
how,
absolutely. Absolutely.
and not just check people off of the list or, somebody's perfect because they check every item on the list, but being able to just kind of weigh in and see what's really important to you. And if somebody's even, close, 3 out of 5 or something like that, then you're at least moving toward a sense of compatibility and companionship, not just it's all about the passion. It's all about, and I'm not saying I don't discount, physical qualities because if you're not attracted to somebody, you just may not be attracted to them. And, you know, but I've tried, dating men that I found who were amazingly beautiful, handsome, whatever. And then those that maybe aren't anybody's cover model. And there's good and bad in every group. You're going to find some frogs who are very pretty on the outside and their insides don't have a thing going on. But then I've also dated men who weren't necessarily the most attractive on the outside, but the way they treated me, the way they opened themselves up for me, it was so like they changed, the way they looked to me changed because of the way I was treated. And so I think, looking at your list again, I may not be everybody's cup of tea. I may not look like somebody who wants a slim woman. I'm a little country thick, but
Country thick. I never heard of that. Is that a new thing?
exactly. So, I might not check off that on somebody's list, but I bet you I know how to treat you and make you feel special. And so if that's important to you, I think I'll line up appropriately. But another thing, I was talking to somebody the other day and we were talking about how, you're out and just because somebody is nice to you, nice used to be on my list, Poppy, a long time ago, but I grew up because nice,
I'm proud of you.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. But nice, somebody can be nice to you. Somebody can buy you a drink. Somebody can buy you flowers. Somebody can take
Right.
you out and talk to you wonderfully. But that still doesn't mean that your values and your needs align with one another. And some people are out there miserable with the nicest people, but all they got was nice. And I'm not saying that's the worst trait you can pick. They're not mean to you, but you're not growing all the time when nice is the thing that you're looking for. And I think, again, it's about being honest with yourself and then acting in honesty with the other person when you see that this really is not what you had hoped it would be, or it's not helping you to grow or helping you to be who it is you could be with another person. Like, you got to just know when to pull the plug, you know?
Yeah, and that's why one thing that I've always questioned this, because oftentimes on these dating apps, I'll see women that put on there, I don't know what I'm looking for. And these are like women in their 30s and 40s. So these are grown women.
Yeah.
And I have a problem with that. And I'm going to tell you why. If you're on a dating app and you have no idea what you're looking for, then what the hell are you doing here?
Yeah. You haven't done enough work.
Because you need to have at least an idea, right? Even if you're like, hey, you know what? I'm just looking to meet people and we'll see where that goes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking to see, I'm looking to meet people and we'll see who sparks my interest or something along those lines. But when
Yeah.
you're on a dating app
Confused.
and then you
Yeah.
give me that answer, that is troubling to me because I'm like, you're on a dating app and you have no idea what you're seeking. I just find that very odd and very strange because I'm on dating apps and I have a specific purpose why I'm on dating apps to connect and network and socialize with women. Period. Point
Right.
blank.
Right. Well, Danielle Hummel writes, like I said, we had some really good feedback. Thank you all who wrote and really put some thought and energy behind these thoughts. Danielle says, I've learned through years in therapy, what works is making sure you put your needs first and never settle. Stand your ground on what you want. Some things I learned you do have to compromise, and that is the give and take on any relationship to work out. Just don't compromise your life away to settle to say you have someone. It's better to be alone with standards and boundaries. I really respected this. And I think that's a part of what you're talking about, doing that inside work on yourself, whether you do coaching, therapy, self-reflection, a sabbatical, I don't know, whatever you need, but doing the work to know what you want. And I think so often, I know, I grew up seeing women who weren't always vocal about what they wanted.
Right.
They were women who were very submissive wives. They were very accommodating to their men. And so that was how, that's what I grew up seeing, and that's how I operated a lot, where I would be afraid, or not even afraid, I just don't even know if I had done the work to even think about what I wanted, um prior to my 30s and 40s, because that's just not what a lot of us have been raised seeing. And so it was just sort of like, well, somebody's going to come along and pick me, and I'm going to be in love, and we're just going to be together. It's sometimes it sounds like, how could anybody be that basic, or things be that simplistic? But if that's what you know, that's what you know. And
No, and
so,
again, and I think it's important, right, that you need to have a good idea of what you're seeking. And it's important to establish that early on when you're not emotionally vested so that when you see disturbing patterns
mhm,
or irresponsible behavior, you can refer back to your list and your standards and be like, you know what? This person's clearly not meeting this standard. This person's clearly not meeting this. Because here's the thing, when you try to do that, when you're already emotionally vested and wrapped up, or when that sex just blows your mind,
yeah, it's
it's
hard.
it's
Get out.
it's hard to just be like, all right, goodbye, I'm done with you.
Yeah,
Most people can't do that. There's women, I ask women all the time, like, hey, like, if you feel that this guy is, being abusive or being disrespectful, why just not block him? And some women are like, I don't know, I don't want to, or I just,
mhm,
I can't, or I don't have the heart. And I'm like, then somehow you're still entertaining this kind of, this conversation and disrespect. And you have to take a stand and be like, you know what, you're not for me. You're not respecting me. I've asked you to respect my boundaries and you still keep going at it, so I got to cut you off and keep it moving.
well, and I think that's a part of this whole fantasy thing. We're talking about reality versus um, fantasy. And I think that is a huge part of it, that there's so many people who are caught up in their happily ever after, and they've already written a film in their head. They've casted this man to be the hero, and they're still not seeing what he's putting down for real, like the truth of who he is, and the red flags and all the things that, you're excusing. If you're finding yourself excusing, rationalizing, or explaining away somebody's behavior to your friends and family or to yourself, you may need to take a relook at the person and see who it is you really are with, because you may be fantasizing somebody who is not good for you. There's a person that I follow on IG,
Okay.
Bare-Handed Chef, and this was a post from a couple of days ago, and I just have to share this because it was amazing. And it says, "Stay with them through ups and downs." Like, that's something that people say all the time. Ride or die, all that. He writes, "Downs are not cheating, disrespect, abuse, whether verbally, mentally, physically, spiritually, manipulation. It is not gaslighting. It is not control. Downs are financial hardships, health issues,
Mm,
death or injury, rough points in a relationship, such as arguing, lack of intercourse, losing the spark. Downs are trouble keeping or finding individuality in a relationship.
right.
Stop normalizing putting yourself through trauma, trying to prove to somebody that you love them."
Ooh, wow, that's heavy. I like it. That's very enlightening, and I think a lot of people, need to reassess that. So, speaking on this conversation, I was I was hanging out with some friends the other day, and I have a friend of mine who, let's call it what it is. He's a very conservative guy,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a single bachelor as well, very successful, self-employed, all that good stuff. And we were just kind of talking about the kind of women that we're seeking, right, for something serious, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he brought up a couple of points that really alarmed me. And he likes to talk this kind of stuff with me because he knows that I'm pretty plugged up with the dating stuff, and he knows that I do the podcast and even has listened in before. Anyways, he mentioned that a couple of things. One is, he says that ideally he would like to find a woman who's a virgin.
Mm-hmm.
And I said,
Mm.
bro,
Fantasy. Fantasy.
this is 2023, my man. Good luck. I don't give a damn what part of the country you go to. You're just not going to find that anymore. That is a lost art.
But the probability is getting real small, I think.
I mean,
We have
listen,
sexualized culture now. I mean, it's just everywhere. So that may be difficult.
that's good. And I told him, like, bro, listen, I get it that it's some of it kind of stems from religious beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
and some of it is just personal preference. But he's a 37-year-old man,
Hey,
and
ask
you're
me.
not going to find a 30-something-year-old woman that's a virgin. Very, very hard. Very seldom. Put it like this: I've been dating for 5 years. I haven't met one.
Hey, Pop,
So
listen. What we need to say is, what you put down on that list, can you provide? That's what you said.
it's funny. Yeah, he's definitely not a virgin. I can tell
You
you
provide
that.
that same attributes. Just
So I told
saying.
him, like, bro, that's not. I told him that is not realistic. You're gonna have a tough time finding that, especially from a 30-something-year-old woman. Another thing that he mentioned was, he was concerned about a woman's past and how many partners she's had, and I told him, bro, you're going down a rabbit hole that's not
Mm-hmm.
worth it because you weren't there.
Don't ask, don't tell.
Yeah, you weren't there.
Past is the
You
past. Whatever
you
you
were
do.
not part of her life. And let's be honest, that's like her trying to critique you for women that you've been with in the past. Like, it's not fair and it's not worth it. And frankly, you can't control that. Like, who people have been with before you, that
Yeah.
is out of your hands and out of your control. So my thing is, focus on what you can control and what you can bring to the table. And obviously, that to me, I completely disagreed with those 2 points. And respectfully, right? We were just kind of shooting the shit and having a few beers. But I told him, like, bro, that is not how dating is nowadays.
Well, and that's his list. He's entitled to it, of course. But again, reality versus fantasy. And I think just as much as women have idealized, a hero on a noble steed coming through to get him. I love Shrek for that, because Shrek talked about like those whole romantic notions of
Right.
ever after. But what happens when the guy that you fall in love with is an ogre? But then what was funny was that Fiona was too. You know, she was putting on that representative, but
Oh man,
at
Fiona was tripping, yo.
her was the ogre. It wasn't the princess, you know. So I think that was a real good characterization of how we expect so much from this other person. And honestly, you know, God rest his soul, Kevin Samuels wasn't one of my favorite people to listen to. But one thing he said I agreed with, that there are so many people out here looking for somebody who is so amazing and so rich and so influential and so, you know, put together, but then you out here still eating spam out the can with the kid.
Ooh man,
And
that hurt. That hurt me right now.
I said spam. Yes, I did. But I was like, you know, no offense. I had my heyday with spam as well. I'm not putting it down because I still might eat a little bit if I get to my mama's house and we have a little girls' time. But my thing is, you got to quit asking somebody for filet mignon when all you can serve at the house is peanut butter and jelly.
Oof, man, yo, listen, we dropping some hard truth right now, but it's gotta be said. And listen, I've had people ask me, right, like, um, are you being realistic with your dating, requirements?
Mm.
And I think it's important to stop and think about this because sometimes, we keep trucking away and keep plowing away, but I think it is important to keep that in the forefront that, hey, these are some of the expectations and desires that I have. And, I'll be honest, right? Like, for example, the children thing, right? I'm
Yeah.
a man, so my biological clock is a little bit different, right? I could be in my mid 40s and still be able to have children, assuming everything is
All right.
ideal.
Well, listen, really, you could be in your 80s like Strom Thurmond in South Carolina and still, pop one out, you know?
Yeah, that's true. But I don't know if I would want to go that route
I know
in
you
my
don't,
80s.
it,
But
but you could have.
agreed. But obviously, a woman, biologically speaking, women do have a biological clock. And some women understand that. Look, I don't want to be, in late 40s and trying to worry about children or changing diapers. So I get that. So, I know that, hey, there's going to come a point in time in my where if I get a certain age and I'm still hanging on to this dream, well, maybe having children the natural way isn't going to work, and I may have to consider other options.
Right. And I think, just kind of listening, think about your friend, wanting a virgin. Well, in today's world, that's putting you in like the teens almost. And even that is still a little murky. You know what I'm saying? With the
Yeah,
early.
that. I mean, I don't
But
know.
can you really be with an 18-year-old, even a 20-year-old, and you're almost 40? Like, is that realistic? Do you have enough in common other than your ability to have a child and the desire to even have one? Because the 20-year-old may not want a kid at 20. They may feel like that's too young. I need to live my life before I bring a child into it. But, at some point, you're getting to an age where finding what you say you want is going to be next to impossible, or you're going to start having to look at some cultural differences, because maybe in a different culture you could find that in an older woman, but are you set to date someone outside of your said culture or race or whatever? So you start bringing all these different variables in, like, really, what's the most important thing to you, and finding someone who is going to be a companion, hopefully for life, or at least for a good minute, when if your list is unreasonable, or if your list is highly improbable, not even unreasonable, and maybe that's not unreasonable, but maybe it's improbable at the age you find yourself trying to start over, or maybe just starting out. Maybe you played so long that you now waited to get serious, and you want something you should have asked for in your 20s.
Yeah, and listen, and I have buddies that
And not just
um,
pick on him in case he's listening.
no, this is another buddy. This
But
is another buddy. This is another buddy. I have. He likes ladies that kind of look like IG models,
mhm.
and I'm like, bro, that's not realistic.
That's editing. That's filters.
That's
That's
not
makeup.
realistic. Like, a lot of those girls are, they're not just, falling off trees and,
They might be country thick too, Poppy.
So I've kind of bust his balls a little bit, like, bro, you and these IG model tastes, what's
Yeah.
that saying? Beer taste on, what is it? No, wine taste on the beer budget.
Champagne taste for your budget, exactly. But whichever euphemism you want, whether you want champagne or spam, we got them for you tonight, Poppy. Right?
But listen, I think just to kind of put a bow on this conversation, I think I would strongly recommend and urge people to try it. Just sit down one day and, come up with a list of 10 things that you got to have, or 10 things that you really feel like you need your partner to bring to the table. Look at that list and be like, all right, I can bring this, I can bring that. So I would want my partner to bring this and that. So that way you're cognizant of it and you keep it on the forefront, so that when you're out here in these streets and dating, and when you get in your fields, pull out your little list and be like, okay, let's see where we're at with, how this dating situation is going, and what I'm, seeking and requiring from my partner. And like we said, right, when you start getting those feelings, things start to get a little hazy and a little blurry, and then you start
Yeah,
to compromise yourself and your ethics.
that's right. And I'm not saying that the list is the be all end all either, because sometimes we do find really good people who maybe don't check off all the lists. We're not even saying you got to have every item, but you do probably need to know what your non-negotiables are, so that 2-3 years after the passion wears down, you don't find yourself looking across the table going, what in the world did I do? Like,
Absolutely.
I was in a bad place when I got you.
Yeah, and listen, and the idea is to be able to do this when you're not emotionally wrapped up,
That
and when
part.
you're thinking with a cooler head. Because
That
once somebody's in love and you try to reason with somebody in love, forget about it. It's like talking to a drunk.
perfect ending. Perfect ending. We just want to thank everybody for listening. Please check us out on our website, www.jorgeandnelsa. No, excuse me. That's our email. therelationshipcycle.com. You can email us at jorgeandnelsa@gmail.com to give us story ideas. If you've got some feedback for us, if you'd like to be perhaps a future guest host with us on the show to talk about one of our topics, please get in touch with us.
And that YouTube channel's coming, folks. Stay tuned.
Yes, exactly. So excited for that, Poppy. But that's all we've got for now. Until next time, everybody.
Buenas noches, good people. Thanks for joining us today on The Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa. Do you have show ideas? Email us at jorgeandnelsa@gmail.com. Follow us on Spotify or anchor.fm for more great shows.